to hear God's voice and just why it's so difficult to hear the voice of God at times. And I think it's mainly because of all the outside influences, of all the outside distractions, and just having an awareness of when God is present in your life. Because at the end of the day, God is present in so many aspects of your life. But it's like having on headphones with the noise cancellation. God is inside the headphones, and the cancellation is canceling out everything outside. But at times, what we do is it's like when you sitting down watching Netflix. You watching Netflix, but the kids being noisy. You got the outside noise. You can't even hear the TV show. So it's the same thing with God. It's like you want to hear God, but it becomes difficult when you got outside distractions, when you have things of this world that kind of knock you off your path with God, or you in the Christian community we call it backsliding. So I'm gonna go over 5 ways to hear the voice of God. And one of the things I want to just pinpoint on before I go into the 5 or 6 things that I do have on my list is to listen. It's very simple. I mean, it sounds very vague in what I'm saying, but to listen. In Matthew 11:15, it says, "He who has ears, let him hear." It's like the phrase that you heard when you were a kid and your parents said, "You listening, but you're not listening. It's going in one ear and out the other." It's the same way with God. It's like you're not spending no time with him, and then when he is there and he's talking to you through your spirit, or he's talking to you in things in your life, you can't even hear him because you're not ready to hear him. That's what it boils down to, and that's what it comes down to. So the first thing that I got is it's very tedious in some ways, and it gets difficult because we go through spiritual warfare on a daily. We have so many outside influences and so many things that knock us off our path with God. And the first one I would say is reading the Word of God. You can listen to sermons, you can listen to podcasts, you can talk to friends about God, but at the end of the day, the source is the best thing. The Word of God is the best thing. How can I hear God if I don't spend time with him, if I don't read his word, if I don't know what he wants me to do? And that kind of ties into one of the other things that I put on here is I have the discernment. If I don't have discernment, then now I can be fooled into believing something is from God, that this dream that I had or that this person that I encountered is from God, because now I can be tricked, I can be fooled, which it still happens to us. But the more that I spend time with God, the more that I build this spiritual maturity and I have this discernment. And that's really what as Christians we have to lock ourselves into and keep and hold ourselves accountable of is reading the word of God, because like I said, we get distracted. We tend to get distracted by so many outside influences, and myself included. I listen to sermons, I listen to so many things of God, but I find time where I find times where I'm not spending no time with God reading his word, because I feel like, look, my cup is full. I've listened to the podcast. I've listened to the sermons. I've talked to people about God. I've been sharing scriptures with people, and I feel like that's all I need. But I'm not building my spiritual maturity if I'm not reading the word of God. And then for another thing I got on my list is prayer. I got on my notes that I put here: before praying, ask God to speak to you about your concerns. Ask him to speak to you about the things that you've been praying about. And I put another thing that ties into the same thing with prayer is silence. I put cutting out all outside distractions and genuinely spend time with God, not making this like a thing where I'm rushing it, but genuinely spend time with him. Meaning when I'm praying, I'm praying in utterly silence, or I just spend time with him by sitting in silence, because it's like I'm preparing my heart to receive what God is going to be telling me, whether it's through dreams, whether it's through my prayer, whether it's through just me spending time in silence, because God can put something in your heart that if you moving and grooving and you don't know what you're doing, you might miss it. Another one that I put on my list was the dreams. I can't count how many dreams I've had, because I don't really have dreams. And this is just for me myself. I don't really have dreams, but the dreams that I felt like were from God, I remembered all those dreams very vaguely. I had a very vivid dream of me casting a demon out of someone running away from me trying to cast a demon out of them. And that's the dream that I remembered. And I've had multiple dreams since then, but I never remembered them. And I felt like this was a dream from God telling me, look, this is your strength and this is your qualities. And this is what I'm telling you that you should do. This I'm telling you should go about this certain situation. And all of these things sort of tie into each other. If I'm spending time with God, I'm reading in his word. If I'm praying, I'm still spending time with God. If I'm silent, I'm still able to cut out all the outside distractions of the world. All of these things tie into each other. And it ties into my last point. It gives me a sense of peace. I know that when I'm reading the word of God, when I'm praying, when I'm casting all my burdens on him, when I'm spending time in silence, I know that it gives me a sense of peace. Although all my stuff won't be worked out, although all my issues won't be solved, it gives me a sense of peace because I'm building that relationship with God. And those are just six of the things that I can pinpoint into how I hear God's voice and how he speaks to me.